I'm bored, y'all. Let's laugh at Melonie Mac. I'll be honest, this paused frame here is like a jump scare. It's like a jump scare. Look at your hair, sis. I don't normally want to comment on looks out the gate, but this is giving like I just did yard work and I didn't bother to brush or style my hair before I came. It's definitely giving jump scare. I was going to swear, but it's too early in the video to swear. This video had a very funny, like anti-woke thumbnail. And the title of it is Bungie Layoffs. CEO buys 24 cars. This is going to be funny. I've already pitched her up. You know how these Melonie Mac videos are. Let's go. Let's do it, Bears. Let's see what she's got to say.
Bungie fell into the woke mind virus, and as to be expected, now they are laying off 17% of their staff. But
so I'm always confused when they say woke mind virus. It changes on how woke works, right? Sometimes people get woke because they're virtue signaling, right? And then other times it's you can be trapped into it and indoctrinated into it. And then sometimes it's a virus where it just happens. You contract it. I guess they don't believe in getting vaccination. So they, there's no way to avoid it. I'm not really sure what the woke mind virus is in this regard, but let's continue. Oh, by the way, I think she's going to try and connect some sort of like dots that like Bungie's layoffs are due to wokeness. But it's going to be fun debunking this because I can almost guarantee, I haven't watched this. This is 100% a reaction. I can almost guarantee that she's not going to have any concrete connections or through lines that prove anything that she's saying. She's going to use everybody else's information. So let's go. That's how she
this story gets even juicier because apparently the CEO was bragging just days before about purchasing new cars.
Okay, so already the CEO apparently is a liar. That the company is very profitable, right? So it's making enough money. I should probably take notes here, but I'm not going to. It's making enough money that he's able to go out and buy cars and brag about it. So if that is in fact the case, then the company is not going broke. So already, if she does this get woke go broke stuff, it doesn't add up, which means it's definitely not that. It's something else. So let's continue.
Cars, plural, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into this video. So here we have Grums, who I definitely recommend you guys follow.
I don't.
He is always talking about all the latest going on in gaming and a lot of the local stuff that is ruining it. So he says here, Bungie is laying off 17% of its team. They blame a slowdown in the games market and stretching themselves too thin over too many projects.
I mean, that seems legitimate. It's possible, but you just said he bought 24 cars, but you're also talking about wokeness. So I'm trying to figure out like which grift you're going to use here. Is it going to be that they are getting woke and going broke, and that's why they have to lay off 17% of their team? Or is it that they're lying about not making enough money and the CEO, purchased 24 cars, I guess? What's the grift going to be? Let's go.
They are scaling down to just Destiny and Marathon and spinning out a new studio with Sony that will be developing a sci-fi game.
Okay.
Now, if they were smart, they would take away the woke ideology with it, but no.
Okay, so why? If the CEO just bought 24 cars and they're starting a new game with Sony, so they've got another project going on and they're focusing on the most profitable stuff they have. If in fact there's an issue with them being woke, then they would be completely screwed, right? They wouldn't be making any money. But if the CEO is able to go out and buy 24 cars and start new projects with Sony and stuff like that, that tells me that they're doing fine, right? That there is an issue, obviously, with the development of their workforce or whatever, but it's not because of woke, because if that were the case, then he would not be buying 24 cars.
Knowing the CEO, that will not be happening. So anyway, here is their statement speaking about that. Now what was that? Here's their statement. We're not going to read it. We're not going to paraphrase it. Not going to say anything about it. I'm going to quickly show it on screen and then jump over to something else. Something else completely. The layoffs that we were going to talk about, we're just going to skip over that because I have something more important to say. I'm Melonie Mac, and I have to the lying and the grifting and the
disingenuous shit, like that has to come out quickly. So they just move on.
Let's take a little look back at when this was almost a year ago, not even a year ago, right?
So we're already off the trail. We're a minute and 26 seconds into the video. We're already off the trail. I don't have faith she's going to rope this back in. Melonie loves to take trips to other places when she's doing her videos. So let's see how much of this I'm going to leave in and how much I'm going to cut out. I might not cut out anything. This video might be completely unedited. We'll see. Let's go.
This is when they decided to be all Latinx, which is offensive to the Latino community, but they wanted to virtue signal really hard. So they were like,
okay, so you care about offending people. Are you going to suggest here that they shouldn't have done this because it's offensive? Is that why? Because Melonie, you don't care about offending people. This is funny. You don't care about it. You offend people all the time. You use slurs all the time. So are you suggesting they did something wrong here? That it was offensive, so they shouldn't have done it? I mean, that's not the way you live your life. So why would they? And why would you care if they offended people?
Being Latin, AEOX, is more than just a location on a map, just as being Hispanic is more than the language we might speak. We are proud to introduce our newest idea, Latin at Bungie.
Okay.
And so, yeah, a lot of us were laughing at this. And of course, as always, a bunch of Latinos in the comments saying, dude, you're disrespecting our language by even pushing this Latinx crap anyway.
Right. So are you virtue signaling for them now? Because you don't care about offending people. Like the Melonie that I've come to know doesn't give a fuck about offending people. So why do you care if people were offended? That's on brand for you. That's your brand. That's the packaging that you come in, is I'm going to offend people and I don't care. All right.
Okay. So right here, let's get into some more juicy discussions regarding what's going on here. So Bungie CEO is said to have gotten a big payout.
So that whole thing about like the Latinx thing, what was the purpose of that in this? What did that have to do with this? Okay.
Days before the layoffs, purchased 24 cars for almost $2.5 million and showed them off to an employee shortly before letting him go. Why does somebody need 24 cars? And these are expensive cars. Like, why? Hey, if you can, okay, but this is
So that's the important question. Why do they need that many cars? That's the important question, right? Not why did he do it to this employee? Why was he an asshole? Like that's not like, why does he need 24 cars? That's the pressing issue here.
There's still a balance, dude. When you're running a company and you have to lay people off because of budgeting issues, but you're buying 24 cars. So let's see what this guy said.
Was it budgeting issues or is it the woke mind virus? I'm trying to figure out which one you're running with here. I mean, is it just going to be whatever you decide to talk about in that moment? I mean, okay.
As an ex-employee of Bungie who was laid off calls on Bungie CEO Pete Parsons to step down. Also says he is a liar and a thief and claims this isn't on Sony, but Bungie leadership. Pete has also supposedly bought a whopping 24 vehicles from a single auction site since the acquisition closed in July 2022, totaling $2,409,550 in costs, presumably part funded by what Liana refers to as the giant Sony payout. Pete privatized his Twitter account earlier today.
Okay.
All right. So, you're a liar, thief, and so many things we can't discuss publicly. Now, Liana, she worked at Bungie. She was a community manager, I believe. I'm guessing she got.
Okay. So are you going to, this is the community that just shits all over community managers like Melonie Mac, Grums, Cabrutus. All these folks constantly shit on community managers. They think they're completely useless. So in this instance, since Bungie and the head of Bungie is the target, are we now going to pretend like we give a fuck about community managers? I'm curious what the next thing is coming out of her mouth here. Let's see.
Laid off and she's upset about it. I'm not sure if she's one of those who were laid off. Now, Liana also has.
So you don't even know. You don't even know. Did you just Like, did you not go and just check a little bit? I mean, it would have taken a couple seconds to find out, like reading through the comments. All right. Reporting from Melonie Mac.
Has been under fire for a lot of things. And I think I can't speak for all of them, but I know rightfully so. I was one who was against when she tried to cancel Robert Workman. So when that happened, and that's a whole discussion that you guys can probably find on YouTube when a bunch of people were discussing that, but that was a giant mess.
I don't care.
Which, yeah, she did effectively do that because he hasn't been able to work in the gaming industry since.
Right.
Because when you have a situation of a small girl speaking against a giant guy, then yeah, the big man is not going to be getting a lot of sympathy. But anyway, she tells him,
Are you talking about like empowering women and feminism? Is that where you were going with that? Okay. That's interesting. Like, people always ask me, like, I've gotten into a back and forth with somebody on Twitter. I'm not going to mention his name because it's not worth mentioning. But one of the things was like, why do you dislike Melonie Mac? And it's because of stuff like this. Like, you don't really have any standards. Number one, you use your Christianity as a weapon. You try to apply it to a bunch of people. And then when that reflection comes back at you, you make excuses for all the stuff you've ever done in your life, but hold everybody else to a different standard. And you're just kind of an awful person.
You're a liar, a thief, and so many things we can't discuss publicly. Step down and without the giant Sony payout. This isn't on Sony. This is squarely on the failure of leadership. Plain and simple, which, okay, let's see. This looks like the
I don't even know why you're pretending like you care about that, because you guys don't like any of the people in the business. Like it's not like you're connected empathically with any of these people. Like, you just don't give a fuck about them. So I'm not sure why you really care.
Cars that he bought. Interesting. Those are pretty neat, like vintage. Okay, well, anyway.
And you just asked a minute ago why he needed those many cars. And I wasn't going to even bring it up because I wasn't sure. But it's very clear here. He's a car collector of vintage cars. He probably likes to restore cars. It is a hobby for some people, just like playing video games, a hobby for you. Getting tattoos, being divorced. All those things are hobbies, right?
Okay. Still, low down move for this guy to do, given the situation at hand. So then Grum says the accuser of Bungie's CEO may not be the most stable person to believe, given how Bungie's CEO was such a huge virtue signaler. They deserve each other. You get what you hire for. See, that's my thought on this too, because in this case, here we see the accuser. She is somebody who has already canceled somebody before who didn't deserve it. And no telling what else that I don't even know about. And then in this situation.
See, that's what I mean. No telling what else that I don't know about. If you don't have anything to add there, you just leave it at that. Like, this is someone who I believe has canceled someone else, in my opinion. You don't have to add that extra shit on. It's unnecessary. Make your point and stand firm in it.
And we see a very unstable queer person. Need I say more? But still, like Grum says, they deserve each other. And this is what people like Pete Parsons here needs to learn, because he is one of those virtue signalers as well. He's got all this pride crap in the background. Dad, CEO at Bungie Love, BGCP, I don't know what that means. Arc Strider Main, be brave, be kind. Notice everybody who says be kind are always some of the most toxic people imaginable. Well,
what's toxic about him? You have to give an example. If you're going to call him toxic, you can't just be like, oh, he virtue signals. That doesn't make somebody toxic. You virtue signal as well. I mean, everyone at some point or time on YouTube could be accused of actually virtue signaling. You can't just go, oh, that makes them toxic. Give an example of what makes this person toxic. Having like info in their bio and stuff like that's not toxicity. You need to give something more solid. Because it doesn't make any sense to call someone toxic and then just be, oh, they're toxic. Why? What makes them toxic?
I see somebody who says, be kind or good vibes. I don't trust them. F racism and social injustice. Audacia ad astra. Okay, so anyway, this guy is clearly heavily involved with the woke mind virus. A big virtue.
So is it a virtue signal or is it a woke mind virus? Which one is it? Is it something that people do for clout? or is it something that people do because they've been infected? Which one is it? It cannot be both of those things. Either somebody is unwillingly infected by this woke mind virus and that causes them to act this way, or they're virtue signaling and they're using it for social clout. Which one is it? It cannot be both of those things.
Virtue signaler, big SJW, if you will. So yeah, this is the thing, is people like him who are so the whole woke ideology is not going to work in his favor.
So now it's an ideology. So it's a virus, it's a virtue signal, but it's also an ideology. Again, it can only be one of those things. It can't be all of them. Those are three very different things.
Right? It doesn't work in society's favor in general. It just is degenerate. It ruins society. So anyway, here you have, and in this case, now it's backfiring on.
Well, how has it ruined society? Because the thing is, if you look at it from the perspective of like the stance that you're in the majority and that all of the other people are minorities or they're marginalized because they are, then you've already admitted that you are in the position of authority. You're in the position of power and you control the system. So if this is a subset of the larger human race, then it's been a failure to control things, obviously, if there is some sort of like insidious thing happening. It hasn't worked. And it's not because there's warriors like you on the front line, because all you folks do are make videos on YouTube. Like you think you're fighting some culture war. You're not. You're making money off of outrage. So you need to come up with a cohesive message. I don't think that her viewers really care whether it's cohesive or not. But I mean, honestly, for me, I would love to just for her to nail it down
on him, because when he is hiring people on his team to be inclusive and for DEI purposes, then obviously they're gonna turn on him. These people will turn on anybody. Not to say he doesn't deserve it in this case, but still, you cannot trust SJWs. You can't trust.
So you're acting as if your community, like, let's take a look at the community you're involved in, Melonie Mac, right? You're in the community with the Fandom Menace, the Fellowship, Geeks and Gamers, Ripaverse, Comicsgate. That entire community turns on itself every single day. There are people in that community that are just infighting with each other constantly. So you fight with other people within your community. The Quartering fights with people within that community. And even if you subtract all of the little niche stuff, it's literally like conservative media. Like, you guys are part of a conservative media group. Like, you all participate in that community in one way or another. And there's definitely, like, if you did a diagram, it would all overlap with each other. So why do you act like the only community that has infighting is the woke SJW community? You have to be honest. If you were going to call my community out for something, the community of diversity and inclusivity and all that, I will admit there's stuff that happens that is bullshit. It does, but it happens to every community, including your community. So you should at least be honest about it.
Trust them. You cannot trust the virtue signalers, because that's the thing with this woke mind virus. If you have any sort of nuanced opinion against it, at any, even just a slight, not even fully against it, but just like, hey, maybe it wasn't right that BLM was burning cities down. Something like.
Well, if it is a virus, that means the people that are participating in it are doing it against their will. They are infected by something that is making them do these things. So you couldn't have a rational conversation about it, because those people would be doing it against their will. This is why I need you to pick a lane. Are people doing it because they want to, and they're doing it to destroy society, or are they being infected by something that is making them do it against their will? You say things that literally there's no way to define it any other way. You're saying virus. You're saying infected. These are words that have meanings. And you keep coming back, and I argue in the community all the time about this. People saying, oh, well, you don't know what this means. You don't know what that means. Like, literally, you guys just make stuff up. The words that you're saying here do not add up to the things that you're saying that they are. There's no connection there.
Like that. Or maybe we shouldn't be giving kids hormones or halting their puberty.
Is this person doing that? is this person specifically, the person you have on the screen here that you were talking about, is this person doing that? Or are you just taking this opportunity to talk about something not related to the stuff with Bungie? Because that's the thing. Every time I come to one of your videos, every time I come to one and I watch it and I just do a pure reaction to it, it's like you always go off on a tangent that just is full of like hateful commentary. You cannot help yourself every single time.
That's going to result in them getting micropeens and not being able to reverse it, things like that. Then they will turn on you. But anyway, in this case, it's the obvious. And these are the type of people who are just like, they push this communist ideology, all that kind of stuff.
You're
Meanwhile,
saying a
they're
lot
buying
about this person without any proof.
cars, millions of dollars worth of cars. So the hypocrisy is unheard of. So Sam here says,
so you don't like capitalism. You don't like when people take their money and spend it the way they want. Now, you could argue about the ethical implications of having that much money and what he's using it for. However, to act as if you have an issue with somebody spending their money the way they want, that's really weird because you hang out with a bunch of capitalists. So,
this coward, you did this, you chose this. I'm already listed as do not work with, and I don't care anymore. You lied to my face, straight to it. You also invited me to come see your new cars 2 days before you laid me off. 2 effing days. Leave now.
Why did you censor fucking?
When a queer person introduces themselves on a queer panel about trans and gender non-conforming people and how to be more inclusive, and the first thing you talk about is how much you're a Harry Potter lover. I'm getting a That's funny. Okay, well, yeah, this person has lost.
So this is what I'm talking about. Like, she's, even though she said she's not picking a side, clearly here she is leaning into like the Sam person versus Pete. Like, there's clearly she finds that argument more valid based on the way she's framing this. And I also love when people are like, oh, you're doing things out of context. No, there's framing, there's nuance. You can read into things based on what you see on your screen. And so that's what I'm seeing.
Credibility to me anyway, but again, they eat themselves alive and it is what it is, deserved.
Okay, cool. Then why do we even give a fuck, Melonie? Why are you even making a video about it? If you're okay with that and you have you're not picking sides, like you're not adding anything to the conversation, you're just Melonie Mac reporting the news and taking every couple of seconds to say something hateful, even if it's completely unrelated to the actual story. You've talked about the Latinx thing. You talked about like trans people. Just okay.
So anyway, Mongo Lawyer here says Halo 2 was developed by 60 to 80 high IQ white male nerds with full creative freedom and success. Today, making a Western game often requires 400 developers, with many involved in identity politics and community manager roles that nobody cares about. This is the ultimate truth. Nobody talks. And I 1000% agree with this. I have been trying to say why.
I mean, of course you do. Of course you do. Of course. You act like that person is saying is like cooking with that comment. Like, this is just repeating and recycling the same shit you guys have been saying for a while now. But you just said that the CEO was able to go out and buy 2.5 million dollars a car? 24 cars, vintage cars. So, I mean, is it not profitable or is it profitable? I'm trying to figure it out.
Are these companies? Why are these video games, these Western AAA video games, why do they have $200 million budgets? Why is this even a thing right now? Even $100 million budget. Games back in the day were way better, made by smaller teams, a bunch of...
Because things get more expensive as time goes on. I'm sure some of those budgets are inflated, but that has nothing to do with the quality control of the games. You guys just, like, it's almost like you just have no clue. Have no fucking clue.
White dudes and some Asian guys usually. There might be, some here and there are people who were more diverse, if you will. You might have a woman or a black dude or whatever, but
it doesn't matter. I've come to the conclusion that doesn't matter. If a black person is hired in a job or a gay person is hired in a job in 2024, and you're made aware of it, and they come in and they're excited about doing that job, and there's even a hint of a mention about who they are as a person at all, immediately you're going to call them a DEI hire. That's going to be your immediate thing. So they can't even come in and do their job because that's just going to be the way you guys are going to move from now on. And that's what we talk about, the gatekeeping and the oppression and stuff. That's just the reality of it. And I'm not saying that, I mean, obviously there is a DEI aspect to some companies. I mean, we know that. That's not a big secret. But you can't apply that to every single person that's hired who isn't a straight white guy. You just can't. That doesn't make any sense. And it doesn't help your argument either. You have to have proof of that shit. You can't just say it. You have to have proof.
This is the thing, is they were hired for their talent and for their passion for gaming. When that happened, it wasn't just to check some boxes, right? So here you have this. Look, you even have a woman here. So it's like you didn't. But
let me explain to you very quickly why we're in the situation we're in now. We went a very long time in this country where hiring practices were uneven. That is just a fact. That is absolutely a fact. There's a reason why these kinds of initiatives come into play to try and even the playing field. Now, they're not perfect. Obviously, in some situations, it can go too far and people can get pushed out of positions. I know it's happened. I've seen the stories myself. But the reality is there's going to be some uphill battles. There's going to be some struggles to get to a place where everyone is able to get hired based on their actual skills, and none of this stuff will matter, right? It's not going to be an issue. But constantly berating people who are not straight white men, cisgender men, constantly berating them for getting hired for a project or a job because you do not like the thing they're working on is not helping. It's just not. What you're doing is not helping. I know that's too hard for you to understand, but that's just the reality of it.
Now, what Bungie has now, and I wish I had that picture pulled up, where we're proud of all the women and non-binary, aka made-up gender people that we have in our company. And then look what happens. You have to do all these big layoffs. Just hire people who care about video games and can make good video games. You don't have to put all of this budget into fancy cutscenes that put...
Diversity and quality are not mutually exclusive. You're not giving up one of those for the other. That is, and I will stand by that argument. I'm an extremely creative person. I have a very successful business. I've been working hard all of my life for what I have. And I get called DEI all of the time. I run my own fucking company. I have my own business that I've spent almost 30 years working hard on. And I have to hear DEI and all this other bullshit. The problem is you have watered down something that actually could have been something that would have been culturally significant. But you guys do like you always do. You literally use it so much that it becomes nothing. It means nothing anymore.
Push weird ideologies or just make games good games. Make good games, please. Please. So Grums here says Bungie layoffs were self-inflicted. A lot of Destiny players moved on to First Descendant, which currently has double the numbers of players online on PC alone. Bungie celebrated Pride and called critics bigots. First Descendant celebrates summer instead. Be like First Descendant in this case. So as you can see, First Descendant killing it. Killing it.
This is a narrative. Okay, this is what we all like to call a narrative, right? The only connective tissue there is that one of them made a statement about Pride and the other one is just a game that's doing what it's doing, right? So clearly to them, that is the determining factor on the success of something. But you're not actually giving me anything. You need to look into the two games and determine what it is that weeds out any other possibility that it might not be Pride shoutouts or whatever. Are there other things in these games that would make them better or worse than each other? And if you're not doing your due diligence to do that, if you are someone who actually seems to care about these things, if you're not doing that, then you are creating a narrative. And that's what they're doing here. They're creating a narrative. There's no other information available. Just, oh, this one's popular, this one's not. One of them mentioned pride, so clearly that's the reason why. That's a narrative.
Meanwhile, Destiny 2 is not even competing right now at this point. Here they are celebrating people doing butt stuff and degeneracy, and then here you have them celebrating
Oh, so like pandering to gay people is wrong, but sexually pandering to people that want to see women like this, which probably there's some queer women who appreciate this. This kind of pandering is okay, but pandering to queer people specifically is not okay. Got it.
Summer. Here, we got some new swimsuits for our characters. Stylish, fun, all that.
No, those are sexy. That is a sexy swimsuit. That is sexy. They're not selling stylish in this. They are selling sex, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you were skipping over that because you wanted to call queer people degenerates. And the only way you can continue that narrative is by pretending like that's not what's going on with this picture as well. I'm not going to let you forget that you guys kept fighting for Stellar Blade to show TNA. Never going to forget that. I'll never stop mentioning that.
We got some new swimsuits for our characters. Stylish, fun, all that stuff. Gaming focusing on being fun again, as it used to. So anyway, let me know what you guys think in the.
So this is, again, I want to just jump back into the whole thing with Melonie Mac and this community in general. If there were more substance to the stuff they talk about, and maybe a little bit of hairstyling as well, if there was more substance to the stuff they're talking about, if they provided more information, it might be worth listening to. You guys know how I roll. If somebody wants to come in, talk to me, and have a conversation with details and things like that, I'm willing to listen. But one thing I will never, ever be cool with is the construction of a narrative based on half the information, a quarter of the information. And that is what these channels do. That's how they function. It's nothing new. A lot of the news outlets, these fringe news outlets, whether it be left, right, center, whatever, the narrative has to be built. It's like producing a TV show or editing a TV show. You take the pieces that you need to make a storyline work, and then you run with that. It's how reality TV is made. So all they need are 3 or 4 pieces of the puzzle, enough to have their narrative work in these videos and work on social media. And that's all they require, because their brain rotted followers, their minions that are eating up, gobbling up every single thing they do, are not going to question them. They have been completely indoctrinated to the point where they will come into my comments, repeat the same stuff, never ever dispute the things that I say about these guys, call me names, say all kinds of shit about me, but never ever actually attack me on the substance of what I'm saying about these channels. And that's how I know that the people that follow them don't give a fuck about the truth. All they want is confirmation bias.